Hey guys, this is Derek Duplessis, host of Purpose Rockstar. It's a podcast where we interview people who found purpose in their career in all kinds of fields. Today's interview is with Gretchen Rubin, author of The Happiness Project, Happier at Home, and a lot of books about happy. You know, I really enjoyed this interview because I got to know the journey of the person behind famous author that we all know. It was really cool, and we got into a little bit about her writing process. I know you'll enjoy this.
Welcome to the Purpose Rockstar Podcast, inspiring stories of people who found purpose in their careers 5 days a week. Unleash your inner rockstar and tap into your highest purpose with your host, Derek Duplessis.
Welcome to the Purpose Rockstar Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Duplessis, Executive Director of the Duplessis Foundation. We're helping inner city entrepreneurs to pursue their purpose by training them to run a successful business. This show is an extension of our mission to help you and people all over the world find purpose in their work. Let me tell you a little bit about today's guest. Gretchen Rubin left a prestigious career in law where she clerked for Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor to get writing. She created success with The Happiness Project, a book that tells a story of her year-long quest to bring more happiness in her life. We talk about Gretchen's journey, her writing process, and her upcoming book on habits before and after. I think you'll like it. Enjoy.
Purpose Rockstars, let's do this.
All this is dovetailing into my question to you about before and after, but before I ask that question, pardon the pun, one thing that's been really interesting to me is that you got 110,000 Facebook likes. You got 88,000 Twitter followers. You got all of these views on YouTube, 1 million plus, almost 2 million. And you're on Pinterest, you got 14,000 pins. How do you make all that happen? You're a person. And how do you sort of get success in all these different channels? Usually writers pick one.
Right. Well, one of the things that's really been true I found about social media, and is that it's when you're starting out, it's hard. Like, it's hard to set it up. Like, you have to write your about thing, and you have to put in your profile, and you got to figure out how it works, and everything's a little bit different, and it's always never works quite as easily as you hope. So it can feel overwhelming, and it can take time. But once you're used to it, it doesn't take that much time. And so I think sometimes when people, who are starting out are like, oh my gosh, how do you do all these things? I'm like, the thing is, for me, Twitter doesn't take that much time because my thing is already set. I know how to use it already. I've been using it for years. And so for me to go on Twitter, it's probably more of a problem that I'm on it too much because I enjoy it rather than I need the time to spend on it. And so it looks like it's this gigantic, horrible thing to manage. But really, when you're used to it and you know it really well, it becomes easier and easier, which is one of the reasons why with stuff like this, it's almost better to do it very frequently than not so frequently, because as you do it frequently, you just get in the habit of it at all. You don't have to think about it. You just know, click, 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 say what you're going to say, and you're out. Whereas if you do it less often, you think, well, you're not spending as much time on it, but then each time you do it, it's kind of arduous because you've got to refigure it out every time. So it looks like a lot more than it is, but it is a lot. And one of the things is that I have really found that for a lot of things, doing it every day or practically every day is easier than doing it fewer times. Weirdly, I think it's easier to post to a blog 6 times a week than it would be 3 times a week. Because I just have to do it. Every day I'm like, okay, when am I going to do it? It has to happen. And I don't question it. I don't debate it. I'm just in this habit of doing it, and so it flows very easily. But now, when I was starting it, most writers didn't do very much on social media. Everyone was very suspicious of it. And but now people embrace it much more. But I think people get freaked out because they see someone like me who's sort of up on every platform or a lot of platforms, and they think, oh my gosh, I could never do that. It's like, this took me years. Don't feel like you have to have everything, every single bell and whistle at once. I'm sure you've experienced this too. Like, you can put one foot in front of the other. Start slow, just keep making progress, and it gets, and you'll get there. But don't feel like your first day out of the gate, you've got to have every single thing set up and going because you'll make yourself crazy. I feel like I was lucky starting when I started because my expectations for myself were so low, and so few people were doing the kind of thing that I'm doing now, which a lot of people are doing now, that I felt a lot less pressure that I think people now maybe feel.
Gotcha. Well, let's dovetail into before and after. First, why did you want to go into this topic, and what did you find out?
Well, I was finishing up my book, Happier at Home, which is about happiness, but really focused on the idea of home, like possessions and body and time and family, neighborhood, things like that. And I picked home because I really was looking for universals. Like, what are the things that just about everyone shares? And everyone's situation is very different, but almost everyone has an idea of home and wanting to be happier at home. And so I was very focused on this, and I was talking to people all the time as the book was coming out, and on my blog, and just with readers, being engaged with readers. And I started to notice habits coming up. And then over and over, when people were talking about their happiness challenges, like things that were really holding them back in their happiness, it very often came down to some habit, one or two key habits that they felt like they could not change. And they might not describe it as a habit, they might not characterize it that way, but really that was what was at the heart of it. And again, because I was really thinking like, what is really the fundamentals? Like, what's really at the core of all these? Because happiness can feel like it's gigantic and there's many different parts to it, and it feels very abstract. Like, what's really at the core? Relationships are at the core. Self-knowledge is at the core. And I really began to believe that habits were at the core, and that if you could figure out habits, it would be big. And so I was thinking a lot about habits. And then a friend said something to me that just stopped me short. I was so fascinated by this question. She said to me, Gretchen, tell me this. When I was in high school, I was on the track team, and I never missed a track practice. But I can't make myself go running on the weekends and on the weekday now. Why? And I thought, why? I've heard so many people say a version of that. And it's the same person, it's the same activity. And at one point in this person's life, she had no trouble doing it. And at other parts of her life, she was really, really, really wanted to exercise. She was committed to it. It was a priority. She believed in why it was important to her, and yet she couldn't get herself to stick to it. And I just became obsessed. Why? What was going on? How? And then, and other things kept coming up. Like, a friend of mine who said, well, I thought I had gotten the habit of running because I trained for the marathon, and I loved it. I talked about it all the time. I was a total bore. I loved my training. I ran the marathon. I loved the experience, and I took the 2 weeks off that they tell you to take off to rest, and I haven't run since. Why? I thought, why? And why is it that almost everybody who goes on a diet gains all the way back and more? And why is it that even when you love doing something a lot, I love reading, but I don't read as much as I should or as much as I want to. Why not? So I became increasingly just preoccupied with the subject of habits and how habits can connect us to a happier life. Because if we can build those habits, I mean, a lot of it just, you can become happier. You're not feeling the guilt or the remorse of not doing it, and you have all the satisfaction that comes from having a healthy habit. So and then before and after, I've always loved any story that's before. I see before and after, I must read it, I must watch it, I must look at it. I love before and after. And I thought, that's what we want with habits. We want to go from before to after. We're someplace now, we want to be someplace else, and sometimes we can do it and sometimes we can't. Why? And I really just wanted to figure that out.
Gotcha. And I guess that's coming out sometime in 2015.
Yeah. I got a long way to go with that one. But fortunately, the paperback of Happier at Home just came out. So for people who feel like, oh my gosh, I must get some of Gretchen Rubin's insights right away. I have a paperback that just came out. Because you're going to have to wait a while for the Habits book. It's got a long way to go.
Gotcha. Beautiful. I'm loving it.
You know, there's more to that interview. Yeah, more. And you can find all of it at purposerockstar.com. Link is right there. Yeah, right there. Yeah, right there. So it's really, really awesome that you can go to purposerockstar.com. If you're one of those on-the-go Apple people, you can check it out on iTunes. There's the link. And for my non-Apple people, I'm going to make sure there's a link on Stitcher somewhere next to me. So you got iTunes, Stitcher, and purposerockstar.com. Tell your friends, tell your family. We're on Twitter and Facebook, and somehow we'll be on LinkedIn. I don't know. But at least we'll be on Twitter and Facebook. And one final favor. Pursue your purpose. It needs you.